So welcome back to another top 10 list. I tell you, it's been a long time since I've done a top 10 list, and I thought, let's do one again, and let's do one for my top 10 console RPGs. Now, before I get going here, I have to state one thing. This is my opinion, this is not fact. So please tell me what your top 10 console RPGs are in a comment below or a video response. Again, I'm also going to say that I'm giving some honorable mentions to Suikoden, Persona, and the Tales series because they're not mentioned in my top 10 list. So again, I say this is not fact, this is just my fun opinion on it. Now here we go at number 10 in no particular order. My first one is Skies of Arcadia on the Dreamcast, and I remember I first played the demo of this. It came with the Sega Dreamcast magazine, and it was done by the same team that did Phantasy Star, and that excited me. And the thing about Skies of Arcadia that I like the most is that you're a pirate in an airship and you have freedom. You have a lot of freedom to fly to all these continents, all these floating islands, and there's a couple of negatives about the game. There's a lot of combat in the game. That's one thing that kind of drowns it out, but I really enjoyed the music, I enjoyed the spirit of it, and I thought this definitely deserved a place in my top 10 list, so number 10. Number 9, a super classic, and one that we still haven't seen a third one of, and that is the Lunar series that first showed up on the Sega CD. And this was the big RPG for the Sega CD. This is the reason why I bought a Sega CD back then, and did it hold up to the hype? At the time, it definitely did. The cinematics blew you away. They were in the same vein as Ys. Books 1 and 2, which was a great thing. I loved the character designs, I liked the monsters, I liked the side view combat, reminded me a lot of Final Fantasy. I thought this did a lot, a lot right, and I liked Working Design's translation. And Lunar 2 came out, and obviously there was the PlayStation ports. There's a lot of ports actually of Lunar, but I'm always hopeful for a third one. Number 8 has a place in the graveyard section, I swear. Because this is an underappreciated gem. And it came out on the 360. And it is, by Miss Walker, Lost Odyssey. This is an incredible game in the same vein as Final Fantasy. And I actually would be as bold to say that I enjoyed it more than a lot of Final Fantasy games. I think it's quite up there. Final Fantasy 12 and 13 came out and I was like, man, Lost Odyssey is damn amazing as well. And everybody passed it off, and there's so many discs in here. I think there's 4 discs to this game. But whatever it is, this game, the music, the combat was excellent. Very mature characters, very mature storyline. Moments, and I'm not afraid to say it, there's moments in this game that brought me to tears, and that rarely happens. Honestly, it's a game that I'm sure you can get really cheap, and I cannot highly recommend enough. But Lost Odyssey, give it a chance. 360. At number 7 in my list is Dragon Quest, the Dragon Quest series. I'm gonna, mention an entire series for that because I do enjoy all of the games, and I did a series review. Please go check that out. You can see how much I loved it, the reasons why I loved it. There's so many reasons why. Akira Toriyama's, beautiful designs, the world environments, the great music. There's so much to talk about Dragon Quest, and please check out my series review and check out Dragon Quest, this series as a whole. You won't be disappointed. Coming after Dragon Quest is the Final Fantasy series. And I'm picking again the entire series. You know why? Because I can do it. I loved all these games from the very first game I played on the NES back in the early 90s, all the way up to like Final Fantasy 3 here, which was 6 in Japan. Number 2 was a favorite of mine as well. Number 4, we never got 5. We got 5 later on, but 7, 8, 9. 10, I really love those games. The online game, 11, I got super addicted to. I wasted so much time in my life, but the series as a whole is a classic series. It's going some unusual directions now, but I like the original series the most, and I gotta put this in my top 10 list, absolutely. And here is a controversial game. It was a controversial game at the time, and that is Xenogears. I'll be honest here. I've wanted to review this game for the last 4 years, and I haven't done it because I feel I cannot do the game justice. The game, to me, is, this is going to sound crazy, but it's bigger than a game. It's the scope of the storyline, the religious aspects of it, that span thousands of years. The story for Xenogears was going to be a huge one, and only this one came out. Unfortunately, the series got cut a little short, and the entire full-out storyline of what everything was supposed to be is actually explained in Xenogears Perfect Works, a fantastic art book. I have it. It's really something else. But this game by Square is just a super classic. It's a super classic because the storyline is so epic, and the combat is great, the music is good. It's got everything that you're going to enjoy in an RPG, and I highly recommend Xenogears, and I actually recommend the entire rest of the Xeno Saga series as well, a series that I finished. I finished number 1, number 2 I wasn't that big into, number 3 brought it all back, great stuff, and even now into Xenoblade. Obviously all these series are different, but they share a common theme, which is the word Xeno now only. But anyways, Xenogears, huge recommendation. It's gonna happen. It happened. Ys, books 1 and 2. Ys, the series as a whole. I've been a big fan of this my entire life. I've done an entire 25 year anniversary special on this. It was just 2 parts. I got to explain in detail first discovering Ys, why it was important. It's an action RPG. It's stretching it a little bit, but I'll put it into the RPG zone because you do gain levels and gain equipment and stuff like that. So what can be said about this by Falcom? I've said so much about it in the past, but a great overhead action RPG that came out back in the day on the PC Engine to the TurboGrafx, and it's been ported to nearly every machine. So you can get it on Steam, you can get it on the PSP, you can get it on the DS, you can get it on every system. Give it a shot. It's not that expensive anymore, so you should definitely give it a shot. I would actually recommend on the Virtual Console as well picking it up, just so you can play the original Ys books 1 and 2, which I highly recommend. So many JRPGs. I'm guilty. I'll take it again. But this game is not a JRPG. This game, man, it's in a war for number 1. And me and Pete Dorr actually agreed. We actually have said at times that we think it's the best RPG we've ever played, and that is Skyrim. When I was a younger guy and I'd be sitting in high school thinking about what the next, the next RPG would be, and we were talking about in the NES days back then. And I would dream about this game in school, a game that didn't exist. A game that wouldn't exist until Skyrim. A game with a fully realized world that you feel that you're a part of, you're living in. When I was playing Skyrim, I wasn't sitting on my couch. I was in this world, and no game has brought me closer into an RPG world than Skyrim, and I look forward to the future of the Elder Scrolls series. I cannot wait to see what they do in the future, and I can't tell you that kid that used to daydream in high school about the perfect RPG, I never thought I'd get a chance to play it, and I did. Skyrim, number 3. Really close to number 1. What is number 2? What is number 2? Number 2 has been sitting here for a long time, and I've never talked about it. I actually have filmed entire episodes about it that I've never put out because I didn't think, again, that I did the game justice, because I think the game is that much better than how I was explaining it. And that game is right here. Earthbound. A game that came out to little fanfare. Nobody saw this one coming. No one saw this one coming. I saw it coming. I was reading about it in Nintendo Power. So I was there day 1 and I picked up my copy of Earthbound, and it really was like a Goonies adventure to me, and that's what I thought it was. You played it in a modern day world with these kids, and I loved everything. Idea about it. I loved that you would go on this adventure in modern times. It was an RPG that was finally in modern times. This was great stuff. Did it live up to the hype? In my mind, yes. Overall, through the years, this game has turned into something else. I play it and it takes me back. It's a nostalgic game, but does it hold up? Yes. It's really, really good. It deserves the praise. It deserves the hype. It deserves everything it gets. It's a beautifully written RPG with great characters, a lot of humor, a lot of cool environments, a lot of cool places to explore. you're really on an adventure with Earthbound, and that's why I had to pull this off the shelf and finally talk about it. And I will mention that I remember Earthbound back in the days, that walking in, I was telling the story to Rob, walking into Willow Video Games, and there was stacks of these. There was just stacks of them. And they were behind the counter, and I'm like, oh, can I get a copy of that Earthbound? They're like, oh yeah. Little did anybody know that this would end up being such a huge collectible game and an expensive game. This game is $1,000 now. How did that happen? And I feel it's really sad because there's so many fans that want this game, and it's really too expensive. And I bought it day one. I think it cost me 80 or 90 bucks for the big box. And Rob said he saw it in the value bin, and I can't believe that. But definitely Earthbound gets my top honors. Just incredible stuff. We've finally reached number one. Finally, number one. Some of you might have an inkling what my number one is, and it is completely, and I will say it, completely based on blind, wonderful nostalgia that I sometimes love to live in. And it was the game that got me into RPGs. It was the game that really made me become a hardcore video game fanatic that I am now. And that is the Phantasy Star series, starting with Phantasy Star 1. Pure nostalgicism here. Purely. And you guys know by now that this is my ultimate favorite game of all time. I saw it at my friend's place and went down the road. He came back from a trip and he had this game he brought back from the, at the time, the States. I was blown away. I'd never seen visuals in a game that looked like it. Never mind an RPG. I couldn't believe how advanced it was. And there was Dragon Warrior at the time, and then there was Phantasy Star, and Phantasy Star wiped the floors with that. And really great stuff, and a high recommendation. Play some of the later games. Actually, I would really recommend 2, but number 4 is probably one of the best storylines and one of the best RPGs in the series. And if you want to go beyond that, there's the online series, the Phantasy Star Online series, which is kind of, that's just the way the series has gone after this. So I recommend that. But Phantasy Star, huge fan of it. And I gotta put it as my number one. Skyrim, it's very close. Definitely very close. So anyways, guys, what are some of your top 10 console RPGs? I couldn't list them all. There's so many great RPGs. Could I get them all? No. And I knew I wouldn't. But I could just list some of the ones that have personally had an effect on me over the years. So anyways, guys, until next time.